Just going to show you how to do a loose watercolor painting. Just applying some water to the paper, and I'm not doing it everywhere. You can see where I'm just tapping in just a bit of water with my hair brush. These are really nice brushes to get a nice big coverage, and just a little bit of, this is yellow ochre, one of my favourite colours. This will be serving as a nice warm tone in the sky area. It's one of the more difficult things I think I've found to paint loosely. There's all this talk about loose watercolours, and I think the best thing you can do to get these loose watercolour paintings is to find yourself bigger brushes that hold plenty of water, and just try not to think about too much what you're doing. I think when you start overthinking things, that's when things start going a bit wrong. But yeah, just keep your, if you want a loose painting, you've got to think loose as well. And I'm just popping in with my tissue, just a little bit of cloud area or lighter tones. They could be clouds later on in the scene. We'll just see how that goes on. And now I just want to inject a little bit of colour as well. So let's see, a bit more of that yellow ochre. I do like this colour. It's one of my favourite colours. And a little bit on this side. And let's get a little bit of pyro red in that yellow ochre as well. So we're just going in and doing all this. And I think we need some darker tones as well. Now I've left, you may notice I've left a bit of light area in the middle of the painting. So that's going to be my lightest area. Maybe it's sun popping through. Just a little bit of darker tone now. Just brushing quite fast. Brushing and just a bit of water. Let's let some of this mix. Just then with a little bit of tissue, just pull out some of this pigment just to keep that light area as I want. I'm thinking of a few distant mountains. I think that'll do for my mountain area. So just a bit of water just to soften some of that mountain in the distance. And what I do like to do, if you've not been on my channel before, is just pull out a little bit of a highlighted area in that mountain. We can go in with a little bit more dark on this side, so it just gives a bit more emphasis on the highlight. And I think I do want to just take out a little bit more of this area and that. I'm thinking I am going to go quite dark with this painting in some areas. just to get a really nice light area and some really nice contrast, and a bit of alizarin crimson with that Payne's grey, just like that, and maybe bring that in as well. Okay, so that's given us a nice dramatic contrast. You can see it's very dark. I don't usually go that dark, but for this one I'm just wanting quite a bit of drama, and we'll scrape out just a little bit of highlights here and there. Not too many, but I want a little bit of interest and texture. And so I'm going to let that first wash dry, and then we'll come back and see what I'm thinking of doing with this so far. So let's have a quick look at my palette. This is a neutral tint mix that I'm making a generous puddle of neutral tint. And this is going to be my darker tones for some trees that are going to be in the foreground, as you can see. So using my rigger brush now, or liner brush, it's giving me a nice line, and I will be adding some ink as well, just to emphasize the contrast in the scene. And it's almost a semi sort of abstract scene. I do like to have a bit of mystery in my paintings as well, so there's lots of different areas that I've not really done much with or painted, covered with pigment, and that does indicate maybe a little bit of mist and that sort of thing, so it does add a little bit of atmosphere to this painting. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I'd love to know your feedback. I just want to grab a bit of add some ink. This is my drawing pen, 0.5. In fact, I'm going to go for the 0.8. It's got a bigger tip on it. And just to add some darker tones on the trees. You can see that. I really like using ink with my watercolour, otherwise known as ink and wash. But it really does help when it comes to detail and contrast and definition. You want to define things a bit more, get them solid sort of lines. It does really help. So just going in with 0.2, maybe able to see how fine the line is now. Just for these little twigs towards the end of the branches. You can see just so it gives that nice bit of detail to the trees, and you can have real fun doing this. You can take your time, just add as many or as little as you want. This is probably the more sort of time-consuming part of this painting. But as long as I get the result of, the result that I want, the look that I'm after, that's all that matters with this one. Let me just bring the camera in a little bit more. See, I'm just looking at the painting now and just going in with these fine details and looking at what I could darken. And it's also good to get dark against the light. So these little highlights in the sort of mid background, if you just go over, this is a bit closer to us, if you just go over with some dark and you'll get some really nice results with the contrast. And that's sometimes what painting is all about, just getting a really nice, not balance, but I suppose it could be a balance between light and dark. But you're just playing one off against the other. So where you've got light, it's good to add dark not far from that, and it gives a really nice looking, it just gives it a really nice look about it. And so just going to carry on for a little bit more, just adding these little details, and these are hopefully going to pay off when I've done that. So hopefully you can see what's beginning to happen now in the painting. I'm getting some quite nice effects, and I can go in and add little pops of colour here and there as I go along and as I progress through the painting. But like I said, I'm trying to keep this one nice and loose. This is taking a little bit more time, but it's still giving that loose, still trying to get that loose approach. I did have to buy a new ring light last week, and so it's a little bit smaller, the actual light, than the one that I had previously. So I think it's that is creating this different light every now and then. So hopefully it's not too much of a distraction. And this is one of my favourite parts, just removing the masking tape, getting that nice clean edge. And I really wanted to get really dark in the bottom corners, just to really get the most out of the contrast, out of the light. When you add the darks, that's when the lights do pop, so it gives it more life. And then just a few birds in the flying around in the distance. So just again using my drawing pens for those. And that's pretty much it. Hopefully you enjoy this one. Just a loose painting. And the way I like to tackle these loose paintings is not to think too much over what you're going to paint. That sort of comes as you're putting down the pigment, as things happen on the paper. This is my approach to painting a loose landscape. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.